We're now going to devote some time to focus on Dangote Group's growing impact within the Nigerian economy, especially in the oil and gas and building and construction sectors. And joining us now to provide greater insight in that regard is Edwin Devakumar, who is Executive Director, Projects and Portfolio Management at Dangote Group. Mr. Devakumar, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to the
Good
morning show.
sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Very quickly, let's start with the Refinery's project, the Dangote Refinery project, built to provide 650,000 liters per day, we're told. And we were told that that project will be ready by the end of 2020. And later, the deadline was shifted to early 2021. Okay, this is early 2021. Where are we? How soon will the refinery come on stream? And what are the challenges, if there are any, that you are facing?
Well, as you rightly said, this is a 650,000 barrels per day refinery, and it is much larger than the existing capacity within Nigeria. And this is the largest single train refinery in the world. And you talked about the project delivery status. Yes, we had hoped to complete by the end of last year and start the commissioning early this year. But as you know, the impact of the COVID-19 had a major impact on us. We were receiving goods manufactured in US, Europe, China, and India. And almost all the countries were affected by COVID. So our equipment deliveries got delayed. And because of the movement restrictions, the shipping got delayed. And the construction engineers' movement also got restricted. So now we have gone far ahead with the construction schedule. And by the end of this year, we will have mechanical completion. And we'll start the commissioning by December this year. So we expect the products to start coming out early next year. And we talked about other challenges. Apart from this particular challenge, we have not faced any major challenges. We were expecting a lot of challenges when we had pre-prepared for it. Though, as you know, this is a major investment. But having gained a lot of experience in construction within Nigeria, we could foresee and plan ahead. There are some of the things which may look very simple. For example, for construction, you need to produce concrete, for which you need granite to prepare the aggregate, to mix with cement and to produce cement concrete. And the granite available, the stone quarries available within Nigeria, we realized that the whole of Nigeria, the existing quarries cannot meet our requirement. So we had to go and invest in a 10 million ton stone quarry, which actually happens to be the largest in the world today. It's a massive investment in terms of equipment and opening the quarry, crushers, but we had planned ahead and we have done that because of our past construction experience. Same thing with industrial gases. Even when we did Obajana cement, we faced a major challenge. We had to go and request BOC to open their Kaduna plant. We had to ask them to reactivate some of their machineries here, both BOC and Air Liquide. So this time we realized this is a petroleum refinery is full of welding activities. So we went and invested in our own oxygen and acetylene plant. So these are some of the things we foresaw and invested. You come to the refinery site, you will see the largest ready-mix concrete production facility in the world. You go to Middle East, you go to US, Europe, you cannot see that. We have got a 13 million cubic meter capacity ready-mix concrete facility, which means massive investment. Again, it's not just producing concrete. We need to have more than 200 transit mixers, which will rotate as a drum. As you take the concrete, we need to invest in concrete pumps. So we had envisaged, foresaw the problem, and invested. We had to invest in a port facility. When we started bringing the equipment for the fertilizer, we realized that the bigger equipment to bring under the third mainland bridge is a challenge. This one, we had to bring a single piece of 3,000 tons. We had to bring 27-meter diameter equipment because the 650,000 barrels per day refinery is as I said, is the largest in the world, single train. So actually, we were trying to maximize, and we reached the engineering limits where they said, okay, no workshop in the world can go beyond this. So such equipment to bring in, there is no way we can bring it to the ports. And the ports have, if you see the key where you offload the things, have a load-bearing capacity of about 2.2 tons per square meter. This one, we requires about 27 tons per square meter. If you put it offload, the whole jetty will collapse. So we had to construct a special port for handling heavy-duty equipment. So these were all investments we foresaw, planned, and invested. So all the challenges we had looked ahead and invested in. It costed us a lot of money. Construction equipment alone, we had to buy more than 2,500. But the challenges we have overcome because we have planned ahead. The only thing which we didn't plan ahead was for COVID-19.
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah. But to some extent, we had also mitigated that impact because what we did was we went ahead and invested in about 50,000 houses for staff within the site. It's a massive investment to have an area for 50,000 people, street lights, water supply, distribution, power supply, distribution, sewage treatment. 22 megawatt of power is dedicated only for my housing estate. So when COVID-19 came, to some extent, at least I can bring the people and accommodate them inside. So it helped. So we had planned, the planning helped a lot.
That is quite an undertaking.
Sure.
You mentioned fertilizer a moment ago, so we understand that Dangote petrochemical plants is test running for fertilizer production. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, actually, if you see, there are two things inside. One is the fertilizer, and another is the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and integrated petrochemicals. That petrochemical is primarily carbon black feedstock, polypropylene, polyethylene. Fertilizer, we have a complex where we can produce 3 million tons of ammonia and urea. And this happens to be the second largest fertilizer complex in one site. And we have two trains, each of capacity 1.5 million tons. The first train, as we are talking, is right now under commissioning. The first phases of all that equipment have been commissioned in the sense that we have commissioned the raw water treatment plant, the reverse osmosis plant, the demineralization plant, the cooling towers. Then we have fired all the boilers, we have fired the steam turbines, the reformers, the methanator, and the MDEA section. So right now we are in the ammonia section. So anytime soon the ammonia can come out. Then it will take just a week to produce urea. So hopefully by the grace of God, before the end of this month, we will have our fertilizer selling in the market. We have already registered our customers. We have registered those who want to take it for export. So we are all set to roll out before the end of this month to put our fertilizer in the market.
Rufai.
Edwin, great insight you've shared there. I just want to know a little bit more about, Forex regime. Has this helped, the completion of this project or hindered the completion of this project? We all know the instability of Forex and the value of Naira to the dollar and all of that. And afterwards, you've set up this refinery, but it's at a time where electric cars are going to hold sway. How are you coping with that challenge? And let's talk a little bit about cement pricing. There's been back and forth about pricing of cement. If you want to share more light on that for us.
How many of the questions do you want him to take?
Okay.
Just take the one that comes to your mind immediately.
Okay. So let's talk about Forex. How easy it is to get Forex for the project they are doing first, and afterwards we'll talk about cement pricing.
Let's go ahead, Mr.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, Forex.
Okay, he was talking about, challenges with regard to foreign exchange.
Yeah.
And he was asking your reaction to this back and forth that we're seeing this week about the price of cement.
Well, regarding the foreign exchange, yes, it's a big challenge, which especially towards the end of last year. Till that time, we didn't face any major hurdles. Towards the end of last year, we started facing this challenge. And so far, we have been able to successfully overcome. And with the startup of the production of the fertilizer, we also have a substantial portfolio for export because its capacity is 3 million tons and the Nigerian consumption is much, much smaller. And we also have another player in the market. So there will be a reasonable quality going for export. So there will be foreign exchange generation. So we have the challenge, but we have option how to mitigate the risks. And coming to the cement price, yes, we saw some news that some of the players feel that the market capacity is inadequate, leading to a rise in the prices. And I do not want to get into the details. I can just say that we had 4 million tons capacity kept idle for the last 4 years because there was no market in our Benue cement plant, which we had just reactivated and started putting up back into the market. So capacity is really not a challenge. And when it comes to pricing, I saw the announcement in the same newspaper yesterday that they were selling at 2,700 naira per bag, and our price is 2,450 at Obajana. So my ex-factory price is 2,450, which is 10% lower than the price mentioned by them. So at least I hope they'll first try and lower the price to match our price, and hopefully they can go down further. If you may recall, in September 2015, we dropped our prices by 25%. At that time, we were accused that probably we are trying to wipe out competition because our margins were good, and we are trying to wipe out competition. This time around, I hope everybody will be happy to see a reduction in price. They have challenged that they would like to lead, and we are waiting.
Well, Mr. Devakumar, okay, with due respect, I would like to say you have been very diplomatic with this your commentary on cement prices. But I think I would like us to cut through the chase. Now, BUA Group, which is your competitor, issued a statement, which was reported in the paper, saying that there is need for the Nigerian government to liberalize the cement market. And that if you liberalize the cement market, you will break what they seem to think is an existing oligopoly. And that at the moment, the cost price of a cement bag is 4,000 naira. And the argument is that it can be cheaper if more players are allowed into the market. Now, do you agree with that view? That's in response to that question. But the other question I originally wanted to ask you is about environmental issues. I mean, all of us are excited about Dangote Refinery and how it can resolve our problems in Nigeria. Even government officials, they are all looking forward to Dangote Refinery, despite their own inability to resolve the crisis with Nigerian refineries, the government-owned refineries. Now, how about environmental issues? Because local fishing communities around the Lekki zone, they're already saying they could be threatened. Now, what are those environmental standards that you have put in place to make sure that we won't have community issues with Dangote Refinery that all of us are looking forward to? Then we'll take a break. When we return from that break, Mr. Devakumar, Executive Director of Projects and Portfolio Management at Dangote Refineries, will still be here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Edwin Devakumar, Executive Director of Projects and Portfolio Management at the Dangote Group. Mr. Devakumar, thank you very much for still staying with us. Before we went on break, I asked you about the environment, community interest with regard to the Dangote Refinery. And I wanted you to be more open about the pricing of cement and the competition in that sector.
Sure. First, I'll take the question on the environmental issue. You know, we are operating in more than 15 states in the country. And every state where we are operating, we have excellent community relationship. And cement is can be potentially one of the most polluting sector. And when we started investing in cement, even till today, the dust emission standards prescribed by the government is 250 milligram of particulate matter per normal meter cube of air. So that is the standard, 250 mg per nm cube of air for dust emissions. At that time, when we started putting our first cement plant, Obajana, the European standards was 50. We designed our plant for 15 milligram. Nigerian standard 250, European standard 50. We designed for 15, 1.5. Now the European standard has gone down to 30. Still, our emission standards is half of what European standards prescribes. It's not just Obajana. All our investment we have done in the same way across South Africa. So we are very highly conscious of environmental requirements. And the same thing with the refinery. When we designed, we looked at US EPA standards, EU standards. So for each item we compared, whichever is stringent is what we have adopted. So even we didn't adopt Nigeria standards, we didn't adopt US EPA or EU, the most stringent among the ones we picked up. So primarily we are highly environmental conscious, and because we also believe that that will give us a good neighborly relationship with the communities. You specifically mentioned about fishermen, because we have also been seeing news coming out about fishermen. Their primary concern is the dredging activity can disturb the fishing boats' movement or destroy the nets, which has been coming up in the last almost 1 year, not just a few months, but almost 1 year the news has been coming. Whereas we finished our dredging 3 years back. So at that time there was no issue because we were doing deep sea dredging. And now we have, actually, there was a committee which came to investigate earlier. The committee investigated and exonerated us. Now there is another committee which is investigating. They are also visiting the sites. We should be able to show that we are not having any dredging activity as such. The fishermen cannot be affected in any way. But we also know that there are other activities going on, like there is a port under development. There are some dredging activities going on for the new port which the with another company along with the government is developing. But again, I'm sure they should be able to resolve the issues because if you want to construct a port as they are planning, they have to do certain dredging. I'm sure they should be able to work with the fishermen and sort it out. But at least as far as we are concerned, it's not an issue which anybody can come and investigate. We have already done all our EAAs, which is all documented. We also did studies through third party, just for our own satisfaction. As I said, we didn't adopt the country standards or EU standards. We went even more stringent standards which we set for ourselves. So here too, we engaged a third party, an independent party to study. So we have even given our independent party study report to see whether there is going to be any impact, including for the fishermen or for coastal erosion. All these reports are available. So I trust this answers your question. The other issue which you raised was about cement. Well, as I said, to begin with, there are a few points you raised. One is about the policy, whether the policy favors certain people or the policies encourages everybody to invest. And Arise TV, I have high respect and regards for you because you have very good investigative journalists working under you through which you bring out a lot of information. So this is a simple government policy. I'm sure you must have already done the investigation based on yesterday's report which came in. And you will be able to see the policy is a very open policy and it doesn't specify or favor any individual or any company, either Nigerian or foreign company. Before we started our investments into cement, the country's production was about 7 million tons. Now, the total availability of cement, including import, the country's production itself was about 2.5 million tons. And you can see now, within this period, the local capacities and production itself has grown 7-fold within this 15-year span. And if you study entire Africa, country by country, you cannot find any single country where they had this much level of growth within this period. That is number one. So that shows that the policy has encouraged investment. But the second part of the question is whether it favors investment only by certain companies. And I also saw that the people they talked, even it was mentioned even during Obasanjo's time, they said, "Oh, this policy is not conducive." That company started its first production almost a decade after President Obasanjo left. And so the company started, and they have become the second largest manufacturers of cement. So you can see the policy has helped them also to grow. The only company which was operating before we entered into Nigeria was a foreign-owned company, which has been there for 50 years with a very small production capacity. Now you can see they have also added up capacities.
Which company is that? Lafarge?
Lafarge, yeah.
He's been terribly discreet and not naming names.
And so it's a foreign-owned company. They have also grown. Then another company came in, which is Flour Mills of Nigeria Group, which is also, though it's a Nigerian company, their principal shareholders are foreigners, but they also came in, invested, but of course they disinvested and sold the plant to Lafarge. And if you go through the policy, it is very transparent, very open. Till today, it encourages anyone to invest, and there is no single line in that policy which favors any company. I'm sure if you must have already gone through it, having seen the controversy yesterday, I'm sure you will agree with me. Whether you're a Nigerian investor, whether you're an African investor or a foreign investor, the only benefit which is available to any investor today is the Pioneer Status Tax Facility, which is available to everyone. Apart from that, there is nothing restricting anyone from anybody. And also, why talk about only cement sector? You can see every sector where we have gone in, we have actually acted as a magnet, drawing investments into that sector. When we started with sugar refinery in 2000, there was no sugar refinery in Nigeria. Practically every sugar was being imported, and we ourselves were one of the largest importers of sugar. We started with a large capacity, world's second largest refinery of 4,000 tons per day refining capacity. Today, BUA has the same capacity, 2,000 in Lagos, 2,000 in Port Harcourt. Flour Mills of Nigeria have 3,000 tons per day sugar refining capacity.
But if I may come in here, sir. Last year, collective eyebrows were raised when the government policy did favor Dangote Cement with regards to land border closure. Dangote Cement got an exemption. But I wanted to talk to you about other factors that play into the pricing of cement. You mentioned your ex-factory price being low, but there's also a distributorship model, isn't there, where the middleman can also add their prices. So that if your ex-factory prices are further reduced, that will help the consumer. I wanted to talk about that and also infrastructure and its impact on the pricing. But we'll take a short break now and we'll be back to answer the question. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still with Mr. Edwin Devakumar, who is Executive Director, Projects and Portfolio Management at the Dangote Group. Sir,
yeah, thank you.
I asked you a question before the break.
Sure. You said also, you mentioned briefly that there was a policy which favored us at the borders. I would like to throw it as an open challenge. You have investigative journalists. You can go to any of the borders and check whether Dangote Group got any exclusive privilege to export compared to others. We did not. You can check with customs records. You can check with any government papers.
Dangote Group, then BUA, got an exemption.
No. Whatever was available, actually, whoever was exporting were allowed a small window. Lafarge was not exporting. It was BUA which were exporting and Nigeria, Dangote which were exporting. But then it was a very small window. A small quantity was sent and again stopped. But so we were not given an exclusive privilege. Everybody who wanted to export were allowed. So I just wanted to make a correction.
Thank you for that.
Coming back to the pricing, and you said, okay, how to protect the consumer's price from going up. If you track the cement prices over the last 12 months or 24 months, you would see that actually Mr. Bhatti mentioned how the prices went almost to 4,000 a couple of months back. Now it has come down, but still it is much higher. It's about 3,200 to 3,400. This happened in the last 3 months. In the last 3 months, you also know that the Naira started sliding down, the bank interest rates were reduced, and you also saw a big spurt in the prices in the stock exchange. So when the Naira value was going down and the bank interest rates, the returns were low, the money automatically finds alternate flow channels to see how it can be secure. So one was stock exchange. So we saw a huge spurt in the stock exchange indices. And another was construction, because people feel that, okay, you put the money in, at least it's a long-term good investment. So construction suddenly took up a spurt, and there was a huge rise in the demand. And that's why, as I said, I had 4 million tons capacity idle in Boko. 4 years with full staffing, operating, collecting the salaries every day, not producing a single ton. So we started activating the plant, and now it is getting into the market. We added another 3.5 million tons in Obajana, a new plant we started in the last quarter of last year. So that capacity is going into the market. But you also talked about how to protect the consumer's interest, which is a fact, which is what we do. Fortunately for us, we have our own fleet of trucks to transport the goods. And we have warehouses in all the key stations. So we are charging if you go to any of our depots in any part of the country, Obajana price, as I said, is 2,450. The transport is about 300. And that is the price, 2,750. You can buy in the cement in any of our depots. And it's a fixed price. So the consumers can come to our depot and collect the cement. And our prices are the same. And we have not changed our price from December 2019. From December 2019, 2020, we didn't change the price, and we have not changed the price till today. So our prices are fixed, and the depot prices are fixed. So that is one way we can protect the consumer. Come to our depot and buy.
Rufai.
So, the word's going round that there's about a 50% return on investment, that it could be slashed to about 25%, for the interest of the people. Because all I'm just concerned about is the price of cement coming down for the average Nigerian that wants to build a house and get on the property ladder. Is there any word about that currently the margins are so big, they're as much as 50%, profit margin, and then it could be slashed down, because that's what the competitor is saying, that he's ready to take a slash on his profit margin about 25% as long as this goes down, because even now we're not producing enough. That cement per head is about 150 kg per person, when in other African countries do more than 200 kg per person. So is there any possibility of reviewing that down now?
Well, to answer your question, you talked about a few issues. One is the per capita consumption. Another is whether the margins can be brought down. If you talk about per capita consumption, it's very easy to say it's okay, it's only 150. Where were we? We were at 80 before, about 10, 12 years back. We were at 80. We were struggling to see why our per capita consumption is low, how it can be pushed up. One of the ways, if you see in most of the countries, the primary consumption of cement is towards infrastructure. But our country has been struggling with massive investments in infrastructure. You can see that there has not been any major investments in airports, ports, concrete roads. So the publicly funded infrastructure investment is quite low compared to most of the countries. So that is one reason why it has been low. And it is, when you talk about today's per capita consumption, yes, if you look at South Africa, probably it is higher. And a couple of other countries, it is higher. But in most of the other countries in Africa, it is even lower than us. So it's not that per capita consumption is high all over sub-Saharan Africa or Africa, for that matter. And as I said, our per capita consumption is almost getting close to doubling, and it will continue to grow. So it's not because of non-availability of capacity, because the implication which was made in that statement was capacity is not available, so per capita consumption is low. As I said, 4 million tons were idle for 4 years, paying full salaries for my staff, because there was no demand. So much so that we invested last year $200 million, $100 million in Apapa, $100 million in One for exporting the clinker, because there was no demand for cement. So we said, okay, let us start the Boko plant. Let us maximize the production in our other plants, Obajana and Ibeshe. Let us export the clinker to other countries, because we have grinding stations where there is no limestone. We have grinding stations in Cameroon. We are putting up in Ghana. We need more clinker in Senegal. So we thought that we'll export the clinker. So we put up terminals. But today, by the time we started commissioning the terminals, the local demand in the last 3 months have picked up. So after sending a few consignments, we have stopped exporting clinker. So why would we make $200 million to export clinker if there is a good local demand for my cement? It was not there. Why will I keep 4 million tons idle? So if the per capita consumption is at this level, it's not because non-availability of cement. And the other point which he raised was, okay, can we go down on the margins?
Profit margins, they're about the highest in the world. Yeah, the cement profit margins in Nigeria are about the highest in the world. Can we go down on them to benefit the people?
The cement profit margins can be highest in the world if your selling prices are highest in the world. There are two things. If your selling price is high, your margins can be high. Number two, if your cost of production is low, your margins can be high. So, if you take our cement plant, for example, all my cement plants, we have invested massively in vertical roller mills, in raw mill and cement mill, which brings down my power consumption substantially. I have a robotically controlled lab. So my capital investment in my plant is such that my EBITDA margin is higher. As I was saying, in 2015, when we dropped the price of cement by almost 25%, the same people came back and challenged, saying that, oh, Dangote is trying to become a monopoly by wiping out the competition. At that time, our EBITDA margin was slightly even higher than this, and my competitor's margin was less than half. So if I had taken down my cement price by 25%, my competitor would have gone into losses. And that means I'm trying to wipe out the competition. And we are operating in the same place, same state, where my land ends, their land starts. So their plants were maybe a bit lower, their operating style was different, and obviously the cost of production is high. So if my EBITDA margin is high because I'm highly cost-focused, an entrepreneur-driven company whose high focus is how to drive down the cost, and that is why my margin is high. If you take the selling price today of cement in Nigeria, this is the same as in Cameroon, the same as in Ghana, and in most of the other African countries, the prices are even much higher than what we are selling today in Nigeria. So it is not that the selling price is high. When we started importing cement, we started our first consignment in December 2000. The selling price in Nigeria was $200 a ton. Where are we today? At $24.50, if you take it $485, which is the parallel market price, it's about $100 or $110. So the cement price in Nigeria between 2000 and now have come to almost half because of local production. Those days we were importing, so obviously the price was high. But today the prices have come down by half. So the margin is higher because we are highly cost focused. And it is not the same between all the players too. But certainly, as I said, we dropped the price by almost 25% at that time. Today, one of the player who says he wants to drop the price is selling, as I said, at 10% higher than my price. Well, today my price is 2450. They have announced their own price is 2,700 ex factory. So they can drop the price, we'll follow. No problem.
Point. But,
we'll let them drop and we'll follow, no problem.
Before we wrap up, how about community benefits? I go back to that point. Many Nigerians are very enthusiastic about the refinery, the Dangote refinery, for example. Now, how many jobs would that create? How many jobs have you been able to create at this construction phase? And then the fertilizer plant, how many jobs would that offer us? And then when the refinery is ready, this 650,000 barrels per day that we talk about, would that necessarily result in lower fuel prices for us as Nigerians? Or the business plan for the Dangote refinery is to sell this out, to export products and make money, make profit at a premium instead of making it available for Nigerians?
Okay. You talked about the community benefit in terms of employment. The refinery alone, straight away, it's going to benefit, as we have calculated, almost about 2.5 million tons of people, including indirect employment. Direct employment will be lower. Today, you also asked the construction site. We are having more than 20,000 people, and it is going to build up in the next 2-3 months to 30,000 people working at our site. And but if you take out the indirect benefits, employment, say I'm going to load about 3,000 trucks a day. So a driver and a motorbike per the truck is 6,000 people straight. And a turnaround to go and drop in different parts of the country and come back is 5 days. So you need 5 times this number. So straight away, driver and motorbike alone is 30,000 people. And down the filling stations and other activities, the maintenance. So if you see, we have calculated roughly 2.5 million people. And agriculture will be much higher because fertilizer is going to really benefit the farmers. I try to take it faster. One of the primary reasons the agriculture has been neglected in Nigeria is we always say, oh, oil came, agriculture got lost. Which farmer has gone into oil business? No one. So primarily, agriculture got neglected because they did not have adequate returns. They did not have adequate returns because their yield was very low. We did a study in rice, it was 3 tons per hectare. Now we have boosted it to 6 tons per hectare by better seeds and better fertilizer and supplying also pesticides. Now we advise them to go to 2 seasons, 12 tons per hectare. It has already quadrupled. We can further boost. So the employment benefit will be huge.
Mr. Devakumar, we will have wished that this conversation can continue because we still have a lorry load of questions. But we want to thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. I'm sure there will be another opportunity to have this kind of conversation.